class, as promised, I'm going to go over again how to create a forecasting document in Excel. All right, so here I have my round zero globe, and here I've actually already laid out an Excel document that should calculate the total overall unit demand for the entire industry going forward, all 8 rounds. And then also I'm going to show you how to create what you yourself would use for your worst case and best case forecasting numbers to enter into the dashboard. Okay, so let's start with the forecast, with the actual unit demand. So in America's budget, here we go, America's budget, it will grow at a rate of 6%, so 0.06. And in round zero, the total unit demand was 5,838,000. 5,838,000. So in round one, to calculate that, I take last year's demand plus, times 1 plus the growth rate, which is going to be in column B. And then for this first one is row 2. So I can copy and paste that through all the years. So if you notice here, round 5 is round 4 times 1 plus the growth rate, right? Okay, so now we get to do it for the rest of the regions. So in America's performance, it grows at a rate of 13%. And in round 0, the total demand was 3,915, which means that for the rest of it, I'm just going to copy and paste. So if you notice, because I did that $sign in front of the B, it means that the column stays the same, but the row can adjust when I copy and paste, right? So again, just as an example, in round 5, America's performance, it takes for round 5, it's G3, which is round 4, times 1 plus the growth rate, right? Okay, we're all squared away there. So now let's do it a few more times. For Europe, budget grows at a rate of 18%. Last year's total demand was 994. Europe performance grows at a rate of 31%. Last year's round 0's round was 697. Asia has some crazy big growth rates. Look at that, 43% growth rate. They start out small, only 553,000 units demanded in budget and only 216,000 units demanded in performance, but they grow at a crazy big growth rate. So take a look at this. So I'm just going to copy and paste my formulas all along. So by the end of 8 rounds in Asia, in the Asia performance market, they might start by only demanding 300,000 units and change, but by the end of 8 years, 5.2 million units, right? That's a lot. Okay, so now let's do our actual forecasting to figure out the numbers that we're going to enter into the dashboard. So here we are. Last year in the Americas, we had a 16.7% market share in both budget and performance. Budget and performance. Okay, so I just put these numbers here just as a reference point because you kind of want to see what you had last year, just to sort of as a gut check, so to speak. All right, so if I am pursuing a cost leadership strategy, and that's a big if, I would do things to try to raise my market share for the budget segment, right? So instead of having a 16% market share, maybe I could have like a 20% market share. More, but not crazy, right? And then in performance though, if I am doing things to make my products more desirable for the budget customers, then I'm probably doing things that make my products slightly less desirable for those performance customers. So I'm not going to be able to keep that 16.7% market share in performance. I'm probably only going to have like say a 10% market share, right? And eventually, if I'm truly pursuing a cost leadership strategy, I'm not going to have anything that I'm selling in the performance segment. Okay, so what that translates to is next year's market share, so 20% market share, times the total demand for next year, right? So I will sell, as I estimate, 1.2 million units, right? And so to do the same thing, next year's market share in performance times the overall market share for performance for next year, okay? So let me format my cells. We don't need all those decimal places. All right. So over the course of the entire year, I will sell 1,238,000 units, which means on a monthly basis, I will sell that money divided by 12, or a little over 100,000 units, right? And the reason I calculate how much I'm going to sell a month is it's just kind of a good rule of thumb to make sure for when you're doing your worst case and your best case forecast. This is the overall number. These numbers here are the overall number of what you think you're going to sell. But when you enter it into the dashboard, you actually are doing a worst case forecast, which for rule of thumb, I say is what your actual forecast minus a month of sales, right? So if you miss your forecast, if you don't sell as much as you think you will, hopefully you only miss it by about a month. And so, but you want to make sure you have enough financing there to cover everything just in case you miss it by that month. Best case forecast is, well, what happens if you are so good, people love you, and you need to sell more than you think you will sell? Well, that's where your best case forecast is, and that's where I say add about a month of inventory, right? So you want to make enough inventory for that best case forecast, but you want to have enough money on hand to pay for things just in case you don't sell you don't sell everything you think you're going to sell. So I just copied and pasted it. So now my worst case forecast for my performance segment is the same thing here, monthly sales, my annual unit sales minus a month, and my best case forecast is my annual unit sales plus an extra month. And so then I calculate the total of those two numbers. And those are the numbers that I'm going to enter into my online, into the best and worst case forecast scenario. Okay, so if I was pursuing a differentiation strategy, then these numbers would totally change. I would think that instead of having that 16% market share in budget, I probably maybe only have a 10% market share in budget, but a much bigger market share in performance, like maybe a 21% market share in performance. And then it's all the same math and just filled it in automatically. That's my worst case and best case forecast. Okay, so I'm going to post this video to Canvas. No, I am not going to post this Excel document to Canvas because this is one of those, I'm going to teach a man to fish so you can fish for the rest of your life, learning how to make these small documents in Excel to just sort of do some basic calculations to make your life a little bit easier. These are skills that you're going to need for the rest of your life, and so I'm forcing you to practice. All right, have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. I will see you in class.